What's going on, everybody? Good afternoon. I know I'm coming out with this video just a little bit late, but nevertheless, here we are to talk a little bit more about Elijah Arroyo. I got another comment telling me that it is Arroyo, and then I got other comments telling me it's Arroyo. And I looked it up, and according to what I saw, it's Arroyo, but NFL Network was pronouncing it Arroyo, so I don't even know what to think anymore, guys. We need a nickname for this guy so I can stop mispronouncing his name. Anyway, let's talk about Big E. I don't know. Let's roll with that for now. Let's talk about Big E here, and we're going to do some tape. Again, I'm not going to put the clips on screen, but I am going to put up timestamps so you can pull up the game that I'm talking about, maybe follow along a little bit. If you want to kind of do a film study, at least the closest thing that I can do to a film study on this channel. And we're basically going to be looking at two of his games from the 2024 season, of course, because those are the only games where he actually did a lot of stuff. So we're just going to be taking a look at some games from his 2024 season. And basically, I picked two of his best games, which typically I don't like doing. But in the case of this player, I wanted to get a little bit of a better feel for what he could bring to the table rather than just thinking about, you know, the upside and I want to warm up to this one a little bit and see if I can get there. So we're going to start with his game at Florida, the Gators, in week 1 of 2024. First, though, please like this video, click the thumbs up button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new, click the bell for notifications, become a channel member for $2 a month. Those are the best ways to help support the channel. All right, so at Florida, week 1 last season, he played 44 snaps, ran 29 routes, 13 run blocking reps, and the remaining reps, which is, I believe, 2 reps, were pass protection snaps, pure pass blocking. 4 targets, 4 catches, 89 yards. And I believe 89 yards was his season high for one game. So it was one of his best games of the year. So let's go through the timestamps here. Early in the game, he was actually very active. There was a lot going on in that first quarter with him. So we did get a pretty good idea of some of the things he can do. One thing that really stands out, I think the main thing that initially jumps out to you about Big E is that they really like having him block in space, and they really like putting him in motion pre-snap. Like early in the first quarter here, he pull blocks and acts as the lead blocker for a pitch play to a receiver. It's like an end around, except it doesn't go back the other way. It just keeps going the initial way, and he's the lead blocker. So again, he's not being put in these situations. Not to say it never happens, of course, but he's getting put in situations where he can build up momentum, build up a head of steam, and then throw a block. So you see a lot of that in his tape, and it's a good use of him for sure. Now, on this particular play, on first blush, it looks like he completely whiffs, and the tackle gets made behind him anyway, so it didn't really matter. But at first, it looked like he just completely whiffed on his guy, and he did. But I think the whiff was caused by the ball carrier cutting back unexpectedly because of the penetration. So I don't really know if that's a mark against Big E here. I think that there is some stuff you can't account for. You're assuming that the ball carrier is going to keep going to the outside, and that's where you're going to be blocking. A little bit later, there were some traditional run plays that he was taken off the field for. And that's one thing that I noticed throughout the tape. There are a lot of run plays, like traditional running plays where he's taken off the field. There are a lot of goal line plays where the Hurricanes are going jumbo and they take him off the field. Like they'll have 3 tight ends on the field, at least 3 tight ends in tight end alignment, and none of them are Big E. So you can see that there is an attempt on their part to get him out of those situations. A little bit later in the first quarter, he throws a nice little help block on an edge rusher, combining with the right tackle to neutralize him. And on the rep, one thing that I noticed, it was at 9:05 in the first quarter, he gets low. He makes a concerted effort to get low and use leverage to push the edge rusher back and neutralize him. So he's not a great blocker. Maybe he's not even a good blocker, but there are some things to his blocking that are good. And I saw some really good stuff on that rep where, yes, he had help, but I like the way he got low. He made a clear effort to make sure he was the low man. At about 8 minutes, he runs a smooth-looking post route from the slot. He's not overly fast to my eye, but he's not lumbering either for the most part. He's not A.J. Barner. He's not Will Dissly. He's not Kyle Pitts either, but he does run a pretty decent-looking post route. It looks relatively natural. He doesn't get the ball, of course, but good-looking route. Definitely some plays in this game where he lined up in the backfield. There was one about midway through the first quarter. He lined up in the backfield to Ward's left. He blocks, and then he leaks out. Now, I don't know if he should have leaked out because the man that he was supposed to block got pressure, which was the pressure that he allowed in this game. And Big E does technically get targeted, but the pass is so inaccurate, it's basically just a throwaway that PFF didn't even consider it to be an official target. So, incomplete pass. A little bit later, there's a goal-to-go situation, and Big E is off the field on first down and second down. In that goal-to-goal situation, the first play was a run, the next play was a pass, and Big E was on the sideline on both reps. So, again, there seems to be a lack of comfort in putting him on the field in those goal line situations. A little bit later in the first quarter, I thought there was a nice rep for him run blocking. Workable, not great or anything, but there was a shotgun draw, and I thought he got some push. It was a play deep in Miami's own territory, and I thought he did a pretty good job at least pushing his man back. Lines up in the backfield again a little bit later, goes right to left to catch a check down. Just one of those plays where you basically just get a manufactured touch. You just go from right to left, and you catch a simple little check down. I don't think he was the initial look on the play, but Ward just hits him, and he turns upfield pretty smoothly and gets run out of bounds after about a 9-yard gain. So, nice enough looking play, but that play that we're looking at there is the kind of thing that Brandon is talking about when he talks about Big E getting manufactured touches. There's not much to a play like this. He just lines up in the backfield. Nobody's up tight on him in coverage because he's lined up in the backfield. How are you going to even get up tight to him in coverage? And then he just goes right to left, and Ward loops it out in front of him, and he catches it. It's very different than a play that's actually like running over the middle and getting the ball in between two safeties and having to spring open against man coverage or something like that. Generally speaking, I thought he got put in motion quite frequently pre-snap, which makes sense and lines up with expectations. And as the game goes on, I continue to suspect that Miami does not want him on the field on jumbo packages, which isn't great, right? We know he's not a great blocker, but you would hope he could at least be one of the 3 tight ends on the field when they go jumbo. Lines up in line for a pass blocking rep early in the second quarter. It's kind of like he's stumbling inside, and then he pivots back outside to pick up the blitzer, but he's a little bit late. So the quick throw saved him, but I don't think he did what he was supposed to do on this play. I'm not sure. It's like he wanted to block the guy on the inside, and the inside guy ran a stunt to the other side, so he came back to the blitzer. Now, I think the blitzer was going to get picked up by the tackle, but I don't think that's where Big E was supposed to go with the play. I don't know. It was an awkward-looking rep to me. He kind of took these wasted steps to the inside and then came back outside. I do think that as much as he's not a great blocker, though, and I don't think that he is, and I doubt he ever will be, he's willing and passionate. So he's got a chance. He has a chance to become a good blocker. And sometimes with blocking, effort is most of the battle. So at least he's got something cooking there. A lot of routes in this game, I noticed, would basically be like the skinny post from the slot, where you basically just kind of run to the back pylon from the slot, that old Doug Baldwin play. So there is a desire on the part of the Miami offense to get him outside and get him deep down the field. And he looks relatively smooth doing it. He doesn't look awkward or lumbering doing it, so that was good to see. Gets a couple of fullback reps later in the second quarter. I thought he squared up a nice block on gut penetration to help free up a run play. And he also did some lead blocking on a shotgun draw play. So for as much as he isn't a great blocker, you can see that Miami's willing to put him in those situations, and he's not afraid of them. He's willing to stick his nose in there and do what he needs to do. excuse me. His big catch, his first big catch of the game, came very late in the second quarter. He runs up the seam from the slot. He basically gets into that layer between the linebackers and the safeties. The throw isn't even a very good throw. The throw is behind him. He reaches behind him and catches it. It's a great catch. And then he just gets chopped down immediately because you can't really be thinking about yak stuff when you're reaching behind you to make a tough catch. Picks up 28 yards. So that's a really nice looking play. That's actually something that is clearly earned. He shows his ability to get between the zones in zone coverage, shows his ability to reach behind him for a tough catch. Good stuff. You get to the third quarter here. Pure pass blocking rep again early in the third. He takes on the edge and actually does a pretty good job repelling the edge back, preventing him from getting any headway into the backfield. That being said, I do think the edge was quarterback spying, so I don't think he was actually trying to get to the quarterback. He was just kind of hanging out in that area, but I wasn't sure. It looked a little bit like he was dancing there instead of going for the quarterback. Maybe he gave up on going after the quarterback after he got initially repelled and felt he could... I don't know. A little bit later, leaks out into the flat for a screen pass. I thought it was a very smooth catch and turn that he made. One of those plays where you just kind of... It's like an out route, except you're not really going out before you turn to the boundary. And you just pick up a screen pass, smooth little catch and turn. He's got two blockers out in front of him, runs free for nearly 20 yards before he gets tackled. It's a nice play. It's a nice gain. I gotta say, I think most football players, most receivers, and a good chunk of tight ends get more yards on that play. He had free reign because of the blockers in front of him for almost 20 yards, and he got about 20 yards. So that's where you see the lack of creativity with the ball in his hands. I do think it is a legitimate criticism of his game. Does some run blocking from inline here, ends up providing a key edge seal. It's not a killer block or anything like that, but it gets the job done. More pre-snap motion a little bit later, right to left seal block to spring a run. So again, getting him on the move, allowing him to block smaller defenders in space. It works pretty well. A little bit later, he lines up as a wide receiver on a third down. He runs a post route. He doesn't get targeted, but it was the first time that I noticed him lining up wide in this game. So you are seeing Miami utilize that. In the fourth quarter, there was very little with him in the fourth quarter, partially because the game was a blowout, and I think he got pulled at the end because the game was over. I'm not sure, but I didn't see much of him in the fourth. But there was a slant route he ran from the slot, and Cam Ward went into a scramble drill, ran around for a little bit. It was clearly not part of the plan, and then he just kind of lobbed it to Big E, who got open versus zone. He actually managed to get behind a couple of defenders. He found the hole in the zone, and he made the catch 22 yards downfield. It was a nice play. It shows that thing I was talking about, where Big E knows how to present a target to a quarterback that is under duress, knows how to get open and allow the quarterback to see him. So that's the kind of stuff that you can get excited about, I think, with Big E here. That's something that he brings that not every player in the league is going to bring. All right, so that is it for the first game. It was a good game for him overall. You saw a lot of the good stuff, but quite honestly, you also saw some of the stuff that I don't necessarily love. And it was one of his best games of the year. Let's get to our second game here. It's going to be Week 13 against Wake Forest, the Deacons. Blue Deacons, maybe, I'm not sure. 51 snaps in this game, 30 routes, 20 run blocking reps, and one pass blocking rep, one pure pass blocking rep at least. 8 targets, 6 catches, 79 yards. So he got targeted twice as much in this game, produced a pretty good amount. It wasn't an incredible game in terms of overall efficiency, but you get to see his usage a lot. Early in that first quarter, used as a move blocker again, lead blocking for a shotgun draw. It's that thing where he's kind of peeling from one side of the line of scrimmage to the other side, and he's just throwing his block on a guy on the edge to make sure the runner has a chance, at least. A little bit later, he motions out wide towards 2 wideouts and blocks for a bubble screen. So again, letting him get on smaller defenders, letting him get momentum before he blocks. That's going to be key here. And even when he's an inline run blocker, there's this one rep at about 10:25 where I'm watching him and I'm thinking, okay, he's doing inline run blocking. I think it's actually relatively passable here. And he was blocking on a legitimate edge rusher on this play. This was not some defensive back that was blitzing. So I look at this and I go, okay, he's not great, but I'm seeing enough effort to where I think he can be passable. A little bit later in the first quarter, lines up as a wide receiver, runs a curl route and gets a quick pass. Thought he did a good job turning around, getting the ball, and then turning upfield. He does squeeze out a little bit of yak here that I didn't see much of from him. He angles his run well upfield, so I did think that there was a little bit of creativity there, a little bit of open field stuff. Lines up wide again a couple plays later, runs a 12-yard comebacker against a really soft defensive back, just turns around, makes the catch, and picks up about 12 or 13. So no yak, but he makes the catch, converts the first down, keeping the drive alive. Late in the first quarter, there was one play where I think he missed his block on a draw. He was lined up in line, and there were two linebackers in front of him. He had to block one of them. I think he blocked the wrong one, and it kind of messed up the play, but the play was already kind of messed up, so it wasn't the biggest deal in the world. But I think he guessed wrong. Maybe the running back cut it back when he wasn't expected to. Always hard to evaluate those things, I think. Jumping ahead to the midway second quarter point, utility as a pull blocker continues to be showcased. I like what he's doing as a pull blocker on these running plays. Get him into space, let him peel out, and just make hits. A few minutes later, he's in charge of cleaning up the edge on his own run. He loses his sustain almost immediately after throwing the block, but he does get the job done enough to keep him away from the plays. So again, it's adequate. He's not George Kittle out there, but he's not Jimmy Graham either, I don't feel like. So gets the job done. There's a late second quarter play that looks like kind of a bubble screen intended for him, but the defense is all over it, so Ward starts dancing around, and then Ward throws, he does the Cam Ward thing where he makes a really, really bad Brett Favre type risk, tries to throw a shovel pass to Big E, goes right to a defender, interception. Nothing really Big E can do, but watch it get intercepted. So that one, I think, is all on Cam Ward. A little bit later in the second, motion into lead block for a running back screen. He throws a decent block and does allow the play to get some forward momentum, but no sustain. Again, he taps him, he pushes him back, and the guy's free again. So you see the limitations, but you also see the decent stuff. He got targeted on a bubble screen and picked up 12 yards a second later, but there was holding on the receiver. I think it was Restrepo, ended up bringing the play back. That being said, when I was watching him run down the field on this particular play, even though it got called back, I didn't want to watch it. I felt he looked a little bit slow and a little bit plodding. It was one of those plays where his potential 4.7 40 time kind of showed up, where you're like, yeah, he's not really slow, but I don't know if I'd call him fast either. Runs a corner route from inline, beats a double team, actually. Big catch and run. So this was a really nice play. This was definitely one of those situations where I thought he got behind coverage. I think it was man, but I didn't get a great feel for what the coverage was supposed to be doing. Might have been a busted coverage too, honestly, but he had two guys in the area. He beat them both on a corner route from inline. Big catch, big run. That was something that got my attention a little bit here. Ran a simple out route from inline on third and short very late in the second quarter. Just sits down in the hole, catches the ball, and was able to turn upfield to get a little bit of yak. Again, it's mostly just what is there presented to him, not anything he's creating with creativity, but he cranked it out. We get to the second half here, early in the third quarter. There's a screen to the flat. He doesn't gain any yards. He does catch it, but there's no gain because the blocking in front of him falls apart. There's not much he can do. About a minute later, he runs a quick little out route and then zags back inside for a third down conversion catch. And one thing I did notice is that Cam Ward really liked looking to Big E for third and short conversions. Like, there were several 3rd and 4s, 3rd and 5s in this game where Cam Ward would just look for Big E. Big E would run some simple route that was just enough to move the chains, and Ward would look to hit him. So this was a great example of that. It was like something you'd see from JSN. Just zig outside, zag back inside, third down catch. I thought the change of direction on the zag to the inside was okay, but was a little bit telegraphed. So you can see some of his movement skills are labored. This is why I say that he's not a great athlete. It's things like that. He breaks a tackle after this catch, though. He gets an extra 5 yards because he breaks a tackle. It was, basically the guy went for his ankles, couldn't bring him down, and he kept on rumbling, so that was cool. Don't see a ton of that here. Does an adequate job cleaning the edge on a shotgun draw, which saves the play. The play was basically dead, and he was able to get in the way enough to prevent the play from getting immediately destroyed. Runs an out from inline on 3rd and 4 and gets blanketed, and the pass gets swatted at the line. So it wasn't going to get to him anyway, but this was one of those situations where if the pass didn't get swatted down, I almost wonder if it would have been a pick six. Ward threw it, and it looked like the defense was pretty well all over it, so sometimes they just have your number. We get to the fourth quarter. There was one play where he took the edge 1v1 in, I think it was a run play. He initially repels him, and you can say he did his job, but he also lost his sustain very quickly. So it's just one of those things where he needs to work on his hand placement so he can sustain a little bit better on these blocks, I think. He does some blocking for a bubble screen from the slot, one of those plays where he's coming out into motion, and he just goes right into a block on the corner as the receiver's catching the bubble screen. But he completely whiffs to the point where all he can do is gently push the defender. Now, it still works. He sprung the play for a non-trivial gain, but he missed so badly it was almost a block in the back. And in the NFL, it might be a block in the back. I don't know. So definitely something to clean up. He, a minute later, runs a seam from the slot. Ward fires it behind him. It's not a very good throw. Pass is incomplete. It did hit Big E in the hands, though. It hit him in the hands. Would have been a great catch. I don't think it's a drop. It's a bad throw. You need to lead him a little bit more than that. Well, maybe it's not a bad throw, but it needs to be a better throw, generally speaking. Could have caught it. It's not impossible to imagine. There was one run blocking rep with a little less than 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter where I thought he had some nice sustain in run blocking to spring a pretty decent run. And then his final notable play of the game was catching a 2-point conversion, tiny window throw on a simple curl over the middle, just basic pitch and catch stuff. But the tiny window throw was great, and he made the catch look easy. So he did his job. He definitely did his thing there. So that is my list of notes from these two games. Overall, he seems like a decent enough player, but I just find myself, I don't know if bored is the right word, but it's close to the right word. It's just kind of dull. He's not standing out in any particular area except maybe his hands. His hands are pretty standout. And that's something you're only going to feel over an extended period of time. So it's not a bad player. I don't think he's going to be bad in the NFL. I'm wondering if maybe he'll end up being a little bit anonymous in the NFL, though. All right. Let me know what you guys think. That's my tape evaluation of Mr. Big E Elijah Arroyo or Arroyo. I will see you guys tomorrow or tonight on Twitch. I'm probably going to take a day off from the evaluations, do a video on something else, and then we'll be picking up Jalen Milroe. Probably Sunday. See you guys later. Go Hawks.